Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call this meeting back to order. I move to end closed session and return to regular session. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Could we have a roll call vote for that, please? Oh, I need to do that at the end. Sorry. That motion carries. We are in regular session. At the end of closed session, the meeting must be certified. Be it resolved that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements and only such matters as were identified in the motion to go into closed session were heard, discussed, or considered during the closed session. Is there a motion to certify the closed session?
So move.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much. We are in open session and our closed session has been certified. As we do each month, we'd like to start our meeting with a pledge of allegiance. I would ask Dr. Scott Horn to lead us in that today, please.
Everybody, please stand and join with me. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now collectively share in a moment of silence, during which time you may reflect on those matters that are important to you, to our community, and to our nation. I hope that we can find unity in this time of silence and collective support for the common work that we're about to take on. Thank you. We will begin today's meeting. It's odd looking out here into the crowd. Usually people don't sit in the front. For some reason today, people aren't sitting in the middle. So I don't know what's wrong with the middle, but I hope you're happy wherever you're sitting. It's good to see everyone here today and to begin the work of the agenda that you have before you. We will start off as we do each month with our introductions and recognitions. First, I would like to bring up Lauren Griffin, our new cybersecurity specialist, and Mahesh to introduce her.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to introduce the newest member to the Technology Services team. Lauren Griffin joined the team in mid-June as the County Cybersecurity Specialist, as you mentioned. Lauren is a Botetourt County resident and a success story out of the Botetourt County school system, public school system. Recently, she graduated with a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity from Radford University. Lauren has worked on examining and educating schools on critical issues in online safety and child welfare and online exploitation. Additionally, Lauren worked on identifying gaps in digital literacy and shared that with the Virginia legislature as a part of her program. As that was not enough for Lauren, she wrote a paper on sea-based search and rescue in the context of network resiliency and cybersecurity in a challenging environment, given that it was a sea, and how do you do that across the oceans. At Botetourt County, Lauren will be working on defining, planning, implementing, and managing the cybersecurity program for the county. The program will aim to take a best practice approach to aligning our security using frameworks such as the NIST cybersecurity framework. So please take a moment to welcome Lauren to the team.
Welcome, Lauren. And I know this girl I've known her for a long period of time. Both her and my daughter played softball together for a period of time, and seeing her on the field and how hard she worked there, I know she worked hard here. But what's more important to me is what you had told me, and you wrote a letter to me about, her experience hasn't been out there for many, many years like other people that we were interviewing. Could you give a recap on that?
Sure. So we had quite a number of people who applied for this position, and all the folks that we were interviewing were more people who do things. So how do I fix something? It's broken. How do I fix it? As opposed to somebody who was more interested in how do I run a program? How do I create a program where we are not running around fixing things, but how do we get away from fixing things? And Lauren was the candidate for us who showed a lot of interest in doing that, and all the approaches that she had was towards a program versus let's go fix something, more a proactive way to do things.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Welcome.
I think for me, this is a good news, bad news moment. The bad news is that we have to have a cybersecurity specialist.
Yes.
The good news is that we do.
Yes.
And I applaud you and your team and leadership for helping us keep our citizens safe. We know that public safety in the traditional realm is very important to us, but this is another way that we can ensure safety of our citizens. So I welcome you to Botetourt County, and I thank you for your efforts to do this work.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Have a good.
We will move on now to agenda item 3. This is our citizen comment period. This is for items that are listed on your agenda. I do have 3 folks that have signed up to speak for agenda items. If you did not sign up, but you wish to speak on an item that is listed on the agenda, please fill out a piece of paper and come on down. We will welcome your comments as well. But first, I'm going to call Mr. Ed Holt to speak on agenda item 8.
Excuse me, I'm old and slow. Madam Chair and fellow supervisors, my name is Ed Holt and I live in the Amsterdam district. I currently serve as president of the Botetourt County Historical Society and Historic Research Chair for the Botetourt Preservation Partnership. I'd like to talk about James Breckenridge and his importance to our area. This story actually begins in Northern Ireland with the marriage of James' grandparents, Alexander Breckenridge and Jane Preston. Jane is the aunt of William Preston of Greenfield. James was born in 1763 in the home of his parents, Robert and Letitia Preston Breckenridge, in what we know as Daleville, which was at the time still in Augusta County. Slightly under 7 years later, the county was organized and the first court was held in the Breckenridge home. James' early education occurred at Greenfield Plantation, where he attended tutoring with his Preston cousins prior to the Prestons' move to Smithfield, 1773. James enlisted as a private in the Revolutionary War, serving under his uncle, William Preston, and quickly rose to the rank of ensign on the staff of General Nathaniel Greene. He continued his service in the militia of Botetourt and Virginia, eventually rising to the rank of Brigadier General. After studying at Liberty Hall, now Washington and Lee, and serving as Deputy Clerk of Court in Botetourt and a surveyor, he completed study of law under George Wythe at the College of William and Mary. Breckinridge returned to Botetourt in 1789 and began the practice of law, which he continued for 40+ years in a portion of the building which we know as the Breckinridge Law Office and Hotel. During this time, he also served as Commonwealth Attorney and a trustee for the town of Fincastle. In addition to a successful law practice, he was active politically, serving 13 terms in the House of Delegates, during which time he championed construction of the James River and Kanawha Canal, as well as the University of Virginia. Breckinridge was nominated by the Federalist Party to run for the U.S. Senate in 1796 and governor of Virginia in 1799. Both were unsuccessful. Breckinridge served in the Congress from 1809 to 1817 during the time of James Madison. There's an interesting story on how he came to rescue Dolly Madison during this time. He was friends with both Henry Clay and Thomas Jefferson, who visited Breckinridge in his home in Fincastle. He also counted George Washington, James Madison, Light Horse Harry Lee, and James Monroe as friends with whom he corresponded. We don't know if any of these distinguished gentlemen visited his office, but it's not a stretch to think that they might have. In 1818, he was appointed to oversee the construction of the second Botetourt County Courthouse, the plans of which were conveyed to him by his friend Thomas Jefferson. During this period, the second room of his law office was constructed. Breckinridge was also on the committee that Jefferson formed to locate the University of Virginia and served as a trustee from 1819 to 1833. He accumulated 4,000 acres of Botetourt County and built his home, Grove Hill, west of Fincastle. On this area, in addition to farming and horse racing, he opened a brickyard, a tannery, a forge, and a mill, the latter of which is still standing. James Breckinridge's legacy lives in Botetourt. We should not allow ourselves to forget this man, who figured so prominently in the life of Botetourt as well as the Commonwealth. A building may be of bricks and mortar, but it's what happens in the building that can make the difference in our history. We should not forget the importance of James Breckinridge and his law office and what it's meant to Botetourt in particular, and Virginia and the nation in general. Recent meetings with construction and restoration specialists have changed my opinion that the moving and reconstruction of this last remaining 18th century building in Botetourt County will have a happy ending. Despite the fact that we moved the Botetourt County Historical Society out in March of 2022 for this purpose. I would like to urge the supervisors to honor our history by building quality, historically correct reproductions of these buildings within the monies currently earmarked for restoration of the existing building in order to honor our past and not to burden the citizens of our county with additional costs. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your history and what you've shared with us. Just a reminder for public comments, we try to stay at 3 minutes. And when you come down, introduce yourself and tell us your where you live, as much of information there as you're comfortable with. Thank you, Mr. Holt. Now I'm going to call Betty Holt. Also to speak on agenda item 8.
Good afternoon. My name is Betty Holt, and I live in Daleville in the Amsterdam District. As Regent of the Botetourt County Chapter Daughters of the American Revolution, I am speaking on their behalf. Our National Society has 3 core objectives: historic preservation, education, and patriotism. These principles guide the organization's activities and mission. We focus on preserving historical sites, buildings, and artifacts, particularly those related to the American Revolution and early American history. Today, we are discussing the fate of the James Breckinridge Law Office as well as the Western Hotel. Why are these important to us today? Because James Breckinridge was one of the most important men who lived in Botetourt County, not only during the American Revolution, but also when our country was formed and in its early years. His law office in Fincastle was an important stop for anyone in the county who needed legal assistance. He was well respected. He worked hard to make this county the best it could be, and his influence was felt in this area for many decades. Can his law office be saved? Yes and no. We have heard the reports from the individuals who say the brick is too deteriorated, that it cannot be moved, that it will fall apart. But should we walk away from his legacy? Should we say, no, it isn't worth rebuilding? Or should we say, this is an important part of our heritage? We should, we must remember this man and this building and what it has meant to generations of our residents. I request that as many bricks as possible be saved, that a new law office, a Williamsburg-style reproduction, be built on the property that was readied for the move. I also request that the Western Hotel be rebuilt, not only to pay homage to the hundreds of people who stayed there, but make that portion into a meeting room that can be shared by organizations, groups, and others that need a place to meet. One side would pay homage to James Breckinridge, Esquire, and the other side would be a practical reminder of those who have passed through Fincastle. What better way than to have a useful place where people can meet and remember those who have come before us? Please consider my request to preserve this history of the county using funds currently allocated to the restoration of the original building to build a full-size reproduction that pays tribute to our history and would be useful to our citizens is the best way to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have a third speaker, Ms. Patsy Dickerson.
Good afternoon. My name is Patsy Dickerson, and I live at 427 East Main Street in Fincastle, Virginia. I currently serve as president of both Historic Fincastle Incorporated and the Botetourt Preservation Partnership Incorporated. When discussions first began about the replacing of the 1975 courthouse, much of the public conversation seemed to focus not so much on the courthouse itself, but on the fate of the Breckinridge Law Office and the old Western Hotel. The current questions, the central questions were, would these buildings be torn down or would they be moved? Ultimately, you all, the board, made a popular decision to preserve the buildings by moving them rather than tearing them down. Many in the community were relieved and grateful for this choice. However, at the June Board of Supervisors meeting, Rich Evans presented a compelling concerns regarding the potential structure damage to the brickwork during the move. This led to a disappointment for many who still hoped that the move would be possible. I was invited to attend a meeting that brought together brick specialists, engineers, contractors, the original moving company, 2 members of this board, and several individuals with deep ties to Botetourt's historical preservation efforts, and Delegate Terry Austin. I was prepared to support moving the law office and hotel building. After hearing the experts' opinions and reviewing the structural challenges, it became clear that the move would likely compromise the integrity of the buildings. A historically accurate reproduction appeared to be the most viable and respectful path forward. A follow-up committee meeting resulted in the following recommendations, printed here for your consideration and approval. The original building should be dismantled and historic artifacts such as bricks, doors, mantles, and other architectural features should be preserved and stored for further use. The county should earmark the funds originally designated in the courthouse project budget for moving these buildings and redirect them toward a new contract for the reproducing of these structures. A faithful reconstruction of the original two-room law office and a reproduction of the two-story Western Hotel should be undertaken. This work should be guided by a qualified historic architect with experience in authentic restorations. An oversight committee should be appointed for this project composed of 2 members of the Board of Supervisors, a representative from the town of Fincastle, 2 members from historical organizations, and 1 at-large member. I respectfully urge the board to approve this agenda item as presented by Mr. Moorman with the full support and collaboration of the Preservation Committee. Please help ensure that the memory of Mr. Breckenridge and all he did to shape Botetourt County and support Western expansion lives on through this historically accurate reproduction. Let this project be something our county can take pride in for generations to come. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
That was beautiful timing. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on any agenda items? I do have one letter that I will read. It's from Delegate Austin. He is unable to be here today, but he would like this included in the public comment. So I'm going to read this. It's addressed to the Board of Supervisors. First and foremost, I want to sincerely thank everyone who contributed to finding a reasonable and respectful path forward regarding the future of the historic Breckenridge Law Office and Western Hotel. Over the past several weeks, I met with county administration and representatives of our local historical organizations, all of whom care deeply about preserving this important piece of our county and nation's heritage. Together, we consulted with the professionals who assessed the structural integrity of the buildings. Unfortunately, they determined the buildings could not be safely relocated in their current condition. With that professional guidance in mind, the group unanimously agreed that the most viable and historically respectful course of action would be to reconstruct both the law office and the Western Hotel using historically accurate methods and materials where possible at the planned relocation site. The county has committed to supporting this approach, ensuring the reconstructed buildings reflect the original architecture and presence of the originals. I support this direction and am grateful for the spirit of collaboration shown throughout this difficult decision-making process. While it is regrettable that the original structures cannot be preserved as is, this effort will still honor the legacy of James Breckenridge, his role in shaping our nation, and his lasting contributions to Fincastle and to Botetourt County. I would like to extend a special thanks to Chairman Amy White, Supervisor Steve Clinton, County Administrator Gary LaRoe, Deputy County Administrator David Moorman for taking the time to meet with me and our historical representatives to shape the draft presented before the board today. Sincerely, Delegate Terry Austin. So we will include that with the public comments. Seeing no other public comments for matters on the agenda, we will move on to item 4. I trust that everyone has had the time to review the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is passed. Items 5, 6, and 7 are slated for Ms. Katie Davis. Mr. Moorman is going to substitute for her today. She's in the back, but Mr. Moorman will be presenting the information to us.
Good afternoon. Item number 5, transfers and appropriations. For the month of July, there are 5 budget transfer requests. This includes quarterly transfer requests from various departments to the Sheriff's Office for vehicle repairs. 2 are quarterly transfers from various county departments to purchasing for both store supply usage and fuel for pool cars. 1 is a transfer for HR accounts to align with expense needs related to payroll processing. And the final is to transfer funds from the Maintenance Department to Parks and Recreation Department budgets for expenses related to portable toilet cost. Additionally, there are 3 appropriations. The first includes multiple appropriations to correction and detention, dispatch, and the sheriff's office related to the reimbursement of various expenses. The second is to appropriate funds to Fire EMS for a donation received and also an insurance settlement. And the last is to appropriate funds from the EDA related to the Google land sale for both the Commonwealth Attorney and Sheriff's Office for the purchase of Axon body camera system. Be happy to try to answer questions if I can, but I may not be able to.
We have a resource.
We
in the
have a
back
resource
if
in the
we
back,
have
that's right.
questions. Does anyone have any question on the transfers and additional appropriations this month?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Okay, accounts payable, total expenditures requested for approval for July for all funds is $3,863,292.62. This amount is higher than usual, as you probably notice, as it includes 3 check runs in order to allow additional processing for the year-end period of June. Notable disbursements for the month include to the Sheriff's Department, $100,000 paid to Axon Enterprise for body camera systems. Under capital projects, $66,825 paid to Garland/DBS Incorporated for the Fincastle Library roof replacement. And payments to community organizations, $95,000 to Blue Ridge Behavioral Health Care for their FY25 contribution, $75,984 paid to AECom Technical Services for the Botetourt County Museum Phase 2 work, and $100,436.25 to the Botetourt County Health Department for their 4th quarter contribution.
Any questions regarding agenda item 6, accounts payable and ratification of short accounts payable list?
No question, Madam Chair. I ask for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would just like to thank Mrs. Davis for helping me on some of these items and explaining it for me. I know that took a lot of time and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
And Madam Chairman, item number 7, request for additional appropriation. This request is to roll over a difference in payment to the Virginia Department of Emergency Management to offset an increase in expenses for the change of the state system and carrier. This payment was received in late June, but it relates to FY26. These funds are restricted in use and must be applied to dispatch 911 telecommunications costs. And so this request is that the board approve an amendment to the FY26 to reflect the rollover of these funds from FY25.
Thank you. Do we have any questions regarding this change? Hearing no questions, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you for
your
making that easy
financial
for me.
updates. We now move on to item 8, which I think is also Mr. Morris. Why are you leaving? This is where we will discuss and consider the proposal regarding the historic Breckenridge Law Office and Western Hotel building that you've already heard a little bit about. Thank you.
Thank you all. You have before you a slightly revised agenda item compared to what was in your packet. I'll go over the changes. They're not terribly substantive, but they did seek to clarify the recommendations for your consideration today. As you all know, in previous board update reports, as well as citizens' comments today, the historic Breckenridge Law Office, Western Hotel building, unfortunately is not going to be able to be relocated as was planned and intended. as part of the Circuit Courthouse reconstruction project. We've been very fortunate to be able to have meetings with representatives of the county's historical organizations as well as leadership. And I'd like to also add my appreciation to Chairman White, Supervisor Clinton, Mr. LaRue, Delegate Austin, representatives of the historical organizations of the county who have really helped in these discussions and helped to try to find a path forward that would seem to appropriately address the concerns and interests here at hand. So what you have before you is an agenda item basically overviewing 2 meetings that were held since your last meeting to discuss these matters and to try to come up with a set of recommendations that, as I said, would seem to appropriately serve the interest. So if you start on the second page of your agenda item, there's a list of conceptual agreements that were reached in the course of these meetings. And I'll just kind of summarize those for you and then be happy to try to address any questions you have. As was stated in the citizens' comments, the first agreement was that a new freestanding one-story building, approximately 13 foot by 28 feet in size, replicating the dimensions, design, and materials of the Breckenridge Law Office as constructed in the late 18th century and expanded in the early 19th century, be designed and constructed to be located on the site on Courthouse Square where the relocated historic building was to be located. Secondly, that salvaged elements from that historic law office be preserved as much as possible and incorporated into the new building. Number 3, that a new freestanding building approximately 13 feet by 30 feet in dimensions be designed and constructed adjacent to the replica law office to create a representation of the original 2-story Westin Hotel building, again, utilizing materials comparable in form and appearance to those of the historic building. So these would be 2 freestanding buildings in place of the one conjoined historic building. And the discussion of the group was that these would be more historically authentic representations of those 2 buildings that were at a later period of time joined together, if that makes sense. Number 4, that building be designed and constructed to accommodate potential commercial uses. At this point, no particular uses have been determined for that building. But there was discussion about allowing for that possibility for use of that building. Number 5, that the county contract a historical reconstruction consultant to advise the county in the design of the law office building replica and the representation of the Westin Hotel. Number 6, that design and construction of the new buildings be managed as a project separate and apart from the Circuit Courthouse project within net funds available from items 4 through 31 of the county's current schedule of values with the current courthouse contractor. And to the extent possible and practical, that work be scheduled to begin as soon as work on the current courthouse project concludes. Number 7, that the funds identified there in that schedule of work be reserved and budgeted as needed to pay for the design and construction of the new buildings. Number 8, that the county apply to the Fincastle Planning Commission for a demolition permit to demolish the historic building with the goal of hopefully receiving that permit not later than August 1. That permit would be needed by August 1 to allow the contractor to proceed without incurring costly delays on the work. You know, I would just say all participants in the meetings had very good forthcoming dialogue and discussion. Everyone did their best to answer questions to help build understanding of the situation that we're having to deal with. And I think everyone, you know, came to a point of feeling pretty good consensus with these recommendations and understanding also the urgency of the matter. As noted in your agenda item, if the project is to be delayed, that comes at an approximate cost to the county of about $110,000 a month or $27,500 per week. So we would like to avoid those costs if at all possible. So the recommendations that we'd ask you to consider is that you endorse the agreements noted in this agenda item, and that you authorize staff to take such actions as necessary and appropriate in consultation with and upon approval of the county attorney to effect these agreements, with priority given to the demolition permit to try to achieve that by August 1st, 2025. Secondly, that you consider asking the county administrator to appoint an advisory committee to consult and advise in the development of the design and construction of these two new buildings. Such committee to consist of 2 members of the Botetourt County Board of Supervisors, a representative of the town of Fincastle, 2 representatives of the county historical organizations, and 1 general citizen of the county who does not have any affiliation to a stakeholder group, and then county staff as the county administrator may deem necessary and appropriate. And of course, staff would be prepared to provide monthly updates to you all as work progresses and proceeds. So I'd welcome your questions. Mr. Rich Evans, our capital project manager, is here, who's of course been managing the project on a day-to-day basis. Be happy to try to answer any questions you have.
I'm sure if I can.
Sure.
Number 4, you would allude to the accommodation potential commercial uses. Of course, there's nothing at this point in time. We want to certainly keep this historic as possible. But what about utilities and the use of utilities in both the hotel and the lofts?
There was discussion in the meetings about, so I'm sorry, let me back up. And so with the 2 buildings, I think there's a little bit of a presumption that the law office building would be reconstructed and be basically preserved and offered as, for lack of a better term, a museum building, if you will. That it would be as close to a representation of that original structure as possible, that it would be, for that purpose to represent that. There was discussion about not running any utilities to that building so that it would be more authentic, more historically authentic. That discussion kind of came full circle. It'd be nice to have some utilities there for maintenance and cleaning and repair. There was also some discussion about if there were artifacts there that need to be lighted for visibility's sake, that it would be good to have power in the building. So none of those decisions have been fully made and set in stone. That would be part of the design process that the county would go through and engage in with this advisory committee. The hotel building, I think the same thing. I think more of the presumption would be that that would not be necessarily a static museum building, but could be a building that could be made available for other uses. Again, no determinations, no decisions made there. I think that's something that we would look to the design group and the advisory committee to offer some recommendations on.
Thank you.
Other questions, discussions?
Just to be clear, they're keeping this separate. We would pull this out.
Yeah.
That's the recommendation,
The
yes,
funds
sir.
that are already allocated.
Correct.
So we'll be doing a separate bid package on this.
Yes, what we could do with the board's authorization is we could issue a request for proposals first for design services to program and determine exactly what those 2 new buildings would be and what they would look at and what kind of functionality they would need to have in terms of utilities and access and things of that nature. Then following the completion of that design, we would put it out to bid for construction.
Thank you. I still want to know how 20 people got this done this fast.
We're going to talk about that. Supervisor Michael.
I have 5 items just for the discussion period that wanted to say that I've got some reservations and concerns of how to complete this expeditiously and still make the right decision here. Number 2, there's some concern of, are we rewriting history because it's not recreating what exists and doing 2 structures versus 1. Number 3, we have an assumption that the money set aside for the relocation will almost be a wash with the construction of the 2 new replica buildings. And I would need to emphasize that that's an assumption, but I think it's a pretty good one. And I don't want to hold up the project I want to make this go forward as quickly and smoothly as possible. And the last one I have is that the two representatives on this committee from the Board of Supervisors, I think we have two people that would be very good at that. And one's an engineer and one's a former building inspector. And I'd like to put those two names forward for you. So those are my 5 concerns.
Any other questions? I want to, I think I understood your 4th point,
The fourth one,
one structure. And
I didn't want to
that
hold it
came
up.
later. If I've learned correctly and I've learned a lot over the past 2 weeks, they were originally 2 buildings and they were pieced together later in initially we started this in the 1700s. The pulling together of the 2 buildings into one came in the 1800s. Is that correct? I'm looking at the Holtz.
Maybe at that time, built a 2-story building. Nobody stopped. It's been torn off. If you go and look, come up these. Rewriting.
Thank you.
And I think having it as 2 buildings now, number one, it's more in line with what was originally done. Secondly, it gives the county in the future a little more flexibility with use. So one could be preserved, remain as a museum, perhaps a teaching space. The other in here is potential commercial use. It has a little more flexibility. So I think that will enable future decision makers to have some flexibility with respect to what is done with this space. Other discussions? I want to say a couple things. First of all, in the list of thank yous, one glaring omission is standing in the back of the room now, Rich Evans. Thank you. He is the project manager for the courthouse project overall. As you know, his insight has been really important and has helped us, as you two said, reach this, I'm going to say a compromise, rather expeditiously. And he's been a great communicator with the contractor. So I want to point out your work too, Rich. Thank you. I think the lesson here, this was obviously an outcome that we didn't want. We didn't anticipate. Everybody was under the impression that this could be moved and would be moved. That did not happen, and it became glaringly obvious that that was not the right decision to make. And I just want to applaud the energy behind this project and the fact that we could pull these people together and reach a consensus. It's, a group of people. It's certainly not everyone, but that's how decisions are made. And I think it's very nice to have the collegial and civil discussions that we've had with an eye toward appreciating our history and honoring our history. I tend to look at things forwardly and take the lessons that we've learned from the past and carry them forward. And I said in one of the meetings, and this is kind of my closing thought on this, and then we'll talk about procedurally how to do this. But I feel like two things can happen here. We can really have a great education about our history and make this space a living space that people can learn from and still be inspired in. And one comment that came to me that I said in one of our planning meetings was, gosh, who among us is doing work that will be honored and people will fight this hard for 200 years from now? And I think that to me is the real lesson that we can take from this. So that being said, those are my thoughts on this project. I hope we can all be inspired by James Breckenridge and by the commitment of everybody that's trying to do this work. I think, Mr. Lockaby, I'm going to ask you to chime in here. It seems to be we need at least two motions to get this rolling. I think we need to have a separate one to endorse the conceptual agreements as outlined, and then another one to appoint the committee.
I think that that's right, Madam Chair.
Okay.
This committee, if it pleases the board, would actually be appointed by the county administrator if that
Yes.
pleases the board.
So yes. So, but we would make a motion to
Yes.
let him do that. Yes, absolutely. So any recommendations could go straight to the county administrator who will appoint the committee. So I think the first thing we need to do is consider a motion to endorse the conceptual agreements noted above and authorize staff to take such actions as necessary and appropriate in consultation with, upon approval by the county attorney, to affect the conceptual agreements outlined above, with priority given to obtaining a demolition permit from the town of Fincastle and authorize not later than August 1, 2025.
So moved. Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. I would now entertain a second motion that the county administrator be directed to appoint a committee to consult and advise in the development of design and construction plans for the new buildings. Such committee to consist of 2 members of the Botetourt County Board of Supervisors, a representative of the town of Fincastle, 2 representatives of the county historical organizations, and 1 general citizen of the county without affiliation to any other stakeholder group, and county staff as deemed necessary and appropriate.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to direct that action. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion also carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, now we will move on to agenda item 9, our monthly VDOT update. I was told ahead of time. I saw Mr. Blevins earlier this week and or last week, and he said he would not be here, but we are thrilled to have you here today to give us our update and ask lots of questions. Maybe we'll be gentle.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for having me. As you mentioned, Brian is out this week. He's actually participating in a VDOT leadership program, which involves a role exchange. And so he's spending the next 2 weeks in VDOT Central Office in Richmond. And with me today is Richie Robbins, who comes to us from Richmond. He works in our Central Office Traffic Operations Division. So for this month, we'll go through just the normal report and certainly take any questions you might have. So just jumping right in with our resurfacing contracts, some of those have started throughout the county and will continue until that work is done. That work can continue late summer into the early fall. So certainly as those routes come around, we're definitely seeing good work being done out there. We don't have any major traffic engineering work orders to update on this month. We did receive one late last week on Bruise Mill Road, so that one just came in. We're taking a look at that, concerned about some safety issues out there. On the land development side, we have been working through quite a few site plan reviews. So the Waffle House review was issued on July 3rd. The 911 complex is one that we are working on finalizing that review and getting those comments back to the county. The Greenfield residential, we did submit comments back to the county in July. We're just awaiting resubmittal from the developer on that one. Blue Eagle Credit Union, the first review comments were sent back at the beginning of June. And then Gateway Grid Battery, similar story there. Those comments were sent back. We're waiting to see if we get a resubmittal from those developers. On the permit side, in the last month, we've had a decent number of permits come through, 3 for utility work, 4 for various private entrances throughout the county, 1 special event permit, and then 3 temporary construction entrance permits. On the project side, certainly you all are well aware of the work that was done just out here at the intersection on 220. The R-cut that was completed, that work is pretty well all wrapped up. So I expect this one will be coming off the list here shortly. The Hunter's Green full depth reclamation, that project is now underway. That one started since our meeting last month, was out there about a week or so ago. That work's coming along nicely. One piece of this I did want to highlight for the good of the group was that the surface we're putting down right now is a temporary riding surface. We will come back at a later date once the FDR work is done and put a final asphalt surface. So folks that live in the area might see a temporary rough surface. Just want them to understand that that's not the final product. We'll be coming back and finishing that up in late August. The 81 project has recently started between 143 and 150. Right now, that's involving nightly lane closures just to do some shoulder strengthening work, which will accommodate future traffic shifts. And that will continue those nightly lane closures into this fall for that work. On the routine maintenance side of the house, one of the big things going on right now is mowing throughout the county. We do have our primary mowing contractor working their way through the county. I know as soon as last week, they were making some good progress on 220, and we'll be hitting each of the primary routes in the county. For our secondary routes, we are performing those in-house right now, and we do have our crews working their way throughout the county, trying to hit all those various routes that we have to cover. In the Buchanan area specifically, again, mowing on the secondary routes, grading on various gravel roads, adding stone where needed, doing some dust control. That's really a theme throughout the county right now. In particular, some of these pop-up thunderstorms we're seeing each evening, those keep our crews busy responding to requests to address any areas of erosion or where gravel's washing out. So that's definitely been keeping us busy. We are responding to various work orders, and one item I know we talked about last month was the low-hanging limbs on Pico Road. I am happy to report as of the end of last week that work should have wrapped up. And we've been in touch with a couple folks out there who I know had some concerns initially, but that work should be taken care of. In the Eagle Rock area, similar situation, working on our gravel roads, mowing secondary routes, cutting brush for sight distance in various areas, trimming back trees. We are doing some shoulder work on Route 43 in the Eagle Rock area. In Fincastle, similar stories as the others, working on gravel roads, mowing on our various routes. We are working on some patching in the town of Fincastle as well. In the Troutville area, again, grading our various gravel routes, mowing, pothole patching on various routes, and some shoulder repairs, and then some tree and debris cleanup. We do have a pipe replacement on Route 674 Tinker Mill Road, as well as some ditching on 665 Country Club Road. And then we are, again, this is the time of year where vegetation is the big thing, whether it's trees, whether it's grass. Those items are certainly keeping our crews busy. And that's really about all I have for this month. Be happy to take any questions the board might have.
Any questions? We'll start with Blue Ridge.
We're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fincastle.
Same here.
Valley.
Yes, a couple of Hunter's Green, update on Hunter's Green.
Yeah, so Hunter's Green is the full depth reclamation that we're doing. That project has started. We are working through there. Work's progressing nicely. We are putting down a surface treatment surface, which will be a little rough for folks for a bit. Once that's completed, we'll come back at a later date to do the final asphalt surface. So that project is well underway.
Good. And the other one, the Highland Manor had a area where Aqua and VDOT had some disagreements in the beginning, and apparently Aqua had the utility line break.
Mhm.
I see that you all have put the curb in, but we still haven't fixed the pavement.
Okay,
I think Aqua was responsible for the pavement
that's correct.
put down, and do we know where we are with that?
Let me follow up with them. I believe they had given us a date, but I believe that date may have passed at this point. So we'll double check with them and see
I
what we need to do
appreciate that.
to move that along.
Individual that where the gentleman has to go to his house hasn't had any guests over for a while just because that area right there.
Sure. Yep, we'll take a look at that and we'll follow up with them.
The next one would be exit 150. Can you give me a little idea of what's going on at exit 150? You have a gravel where the car wash was.
Mhm.
And I think that's the property you guys will be taking over, extending the lane.
Correct. So it's those two businesses right beside each other coming
Correct.
up 220.
Still a lot of weeds and brush that's there that I was hoping to get down a little bit more, but in any event, we see some gravel there. Is that a staging area?
Correct. So I think I did receive an email yesterday from a group with our project team. They are starting to use that area a little bit as a staging area. And they are working on moving forward with the demolition of those buildings.
Very good.
I think they're trying to finalize some paperwork on that front before they actually move through and do the demolition.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's good news.
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you for Pico Road. I would ask if you could give us a little information. I attended the VDOT meeting last week, Thursday night. There was an I-81 corridor information session hosted by VDOT in Salem. I attended that. We had a chance to offer comments on sections of 81 that we felt were most problematic, where we would like to see some improvements. I spoke as well as leadership from the town of Buchanan and Delegate Austin on the S-curves at exit 167, 168, which have historically been a tremendous challenge for travelers. When something happens on 81 in our area, that really gridlocks the town of Buchanan, especially with respect to fire and EMS services. When 11 is blocked, there is nowhere for people to go. So should there be a need for emergency services, it's really, really problematic. So we talked about that. What I'd like for you to say is kind of how the citizens, if you could give an overview of this process for the citizens and how they can give input into this. I know you have some QR codes and things, but how can citizens access this information?
Absolutely. So probably the easiest way is to go on our website. Our website has the list of all kind of studies and projects that are going on. And I might be able to, I could probably either to Mr. LaRoe send a link or something if that would be easier. Just that way the board has that handy in case citizens ask. But really the goal of that meeting was to solicit public input for the next kind of phase of 81 projects. So we certainly have all the projects that are going on right now, but the state at this point really is trying to look ahead to what the next, I think they were calling it tranche of projects would be in the future. So definitely happy to take comments from folks, and I'll try and make sure that the board has that information to share with their citizens.
Thank you. I just want to make sure the public knows that is happening. And if we could maybe get that on our website as well, so that anybody could access that to give feedback.
Absolutely.
But thank you for that. It was very informative.
Yep. No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good one.
I think we are right on time for our 3 p.m. public hearing. Mr. Lockaby, Ms. Pendleton, who's going to handle this?
I will handle this, and I think Mrs. Pendleton is standing at the back to fill in the inevitable blanks where I forget important things. All right, so I have actually bounced together the subdivision and site plan ordinance updates with the bonding policy updates because it all kind of goes together. As far as the presentation goes, one of these things is an ordinance, the other is just a policy, but the two things do dovetail with one another. So I wanted you all to understand the very high level background here is that all localities are required to have subdivision ordinances for the orderly subdivision of the land. You're also required to have a site plan. Site plans are typically used to ensure that a given piece of property complies with the zoning and that development on the property is going to comply with the zoning. Although they have also increasingly also become a mechanism for enforcement of the stormwater management laws, as they often interact closely with a grading plan. In fact, they're often filed at the same time. They follow the same approval process, and it is not a legislative approval. Y'all are familiar with the concept of a legislative approval. There's balancing of factors, what's in the public interest, what's, what serves the general public health, safety, and general welfare. Well, subdivisions and site plans are ministerial, which means that if it meets all of the requirements, you have to approve it. There's no discretion to say, well, but this isn't actually good development. Well, if it meets the zoning ordinance and it meets the subdivision ordinance, you got to sign the plat or the site. Basic concept of how the review process works. An application is received in the Department of Community Development. It might include survey drawings. It might include utility plans and profiles, road plans and profiles. It might include a grading plan. Sometimes it includes building plans, although those can be separately filed. When that shows up, it is that the very first thing that you do from the standpoint of our Department of Community Development is that they forward it to other agencies that need to review that. And those other agencies include VDOT, and VDOT needs to review any road plans that come in. Western Virginia Water Authority, they need to review any of the water and sewer plans. It includes if it's going to have on-site well or septic, might also go to the Department of Health. You might ask the sheriff to comment on it. You might ask the stormwater administrator to comment on it. We often have fire EMS look at major developments to see whether ambulance and fire access is going to be sufficient. So these are all things that we have as part of the process, and we usually just call that agency review. After the agency review, their comments are going to come back. Nicole's office is simultaneously going to be reviewing whatever it is for compliance with our zoning and our subdivision ordinances. Finally, all the comments are consolidated and you provide comments back to the developer, or if it happens to be the perfect plat, which happens once in a while, you sign it and they get to file it. There's usually resubmission. Application is turned back in with corrections, and usually 1 or 2 rounds of corrections is going to be enough. Sometimes it can bounce back and forth, many rounds of comments. Sometimes it becomes a collaborative process where honestly that you have a meeting with the surveyor and go through every little issue and you sort them all out. So it can be different kinds of process to a degree, but the process envisioned by the state statute is that there would be a resubmission and rounds of back and forth comments. The General Assembly decided to make some pretty significant changes to this. That went into effect on July 1. The first of these changes is SB 974, which requires that the agent of the governing body to approve site plans and subdivision plats cannot be the Planning Commission. Basically, the Planning Commission needs to come out of the process. Now, we had already done that to a degree. Back in 2008, there was a bit of a controversy in the county where it had been the previous practice of our Planning Commission that they would make comments on whether the development of a particular subdivision or site plan was a good idea, whether the land was suitable for this particular development or arrangement. Got into a little bit of a fight about that because there had been a couple of years prior to that a case out of Augusta County that said that that really defined the difference between legislative and ministerial approval. In any case, so we had already given a lot of that to professional administrators with knowledge of subdivision or knowledge of surveying and engineering and lots of training in this so that they would be able to make that decision. Since it's a checklist, there wasn't a lot of point in having the planning commission get beat up over something that they didn't have really any ability to say no to if it was done properly. However, there were a couple of places where our planning commission was involved in the process where we needed to take them out. The other is HB 2660, which shortened the review timelines and changed the comment process. So we previously had 10 business days to forward sets of plans to the review agencies. That was shortened to 5. The review agency comment period was shortened from 45 days to 30 days. And the final comment period was about the period between which we get the agency comments and have to give the final answer to the developer was shortened from 35 to 20 calendar days. I have to admit this was largely driven out of some situations in Northern Virginia. This was almost entirely driven by the home builders. It also had some language that requires that the comments cover all deficiency by citation or reference to direct reference to codes, ordinances, or regulations, as well as the actions that the applicant needed to make in order to comply with the codes or correct them. And upon a third resubmission, so basically if it's bounced back and forth already so if you're in your 4th time, there's an abbreviated review, even further abbreviated review timeline, as well as I think it would actually go to David, to Mr. Mormon to review and tell Nicole that she was wrong. So good luck with that, Mr. Mormon. In any event, there were some changes made. Note that there were still savings such that if we somehow miss compliance with a law or regulation that would impact public safety, that comment can be added at a later date. Flipping over to surety bonding, at the time of approval of a subdivision plat or site plan, state law requires that there be a surety bond in the amount of 110% of the cost of of all the facilities that will be dedicated for public ownership and maintenance. And the water control law has similar requirements for stormwater. And this is a requirement. This is something that we must do. It's not as though we could say, hey, we're going to be nice guys and we're only going to require you to have 50% bond. It's 110%. That's what it is. The facilities that are normally bonded: roads, water, sewer infrastructure, stormwater management infrastructure. A couple of different types of surety: cash escrow, irrevocable letter of credit, or corporate surety bond. We've established a bonding committee, which is a group which looks at the developer's cost estimate. Sometimes we hire an engineer to look over that cost estimate. We also take into account any estimating that VDOT gives or that Western Virginia gives in order to decide how much of a surety somebody should post in order to adequately protect us if they go out of business and we're left having to finish out a subdivision or finishing out the infrastructure to serve a piece of property. And those of you who've been around probably remember between 2009 and 2012, there was a significant developer who had done a lot of work in Ashley who more or less went bankrupt. I don't know whether bankruptcy was actually technically done, but I do know that they assigned all their assets for the benefit of their creditors. And we and the bank wound up having to fix a lot of these things. And that was either by agreement. In some cases, we pulled the letter of credit from the bank and said, just send us a check. Some cases, the bank said, you know what, we'll take this over and finish it out to your satisfaction. It really just depended. But that's basically what there is to protect you, protect the people. so that if they buy units in a subdivision or whatever and the infrastructure hasn't been completed, the county can come in without hopefully too much damage to the public and be able to finish out that infrastructure. The bonding committee also approves a development agreement, which that development agreement provides for a timeline and for certain covenants that the developer will meet in order to develop the infrastructure. And it sets out a clear set of things where if they're breached, we are able to make a claim upon that surety or the bank that holds the letter of credit in order to fix the problem. Wanted to make sure, as a parenthetical issue, there is some ability to require, as part of the work of a subdivision or site plan ordinance and the bonding committee, certain types of offsite infrastructure. It has to be part of the approved plans and plats in the development agreement, and a regional plan is desirable. And I think that y'all are aware that the county has proposed to work with Western Virginia Water Authority on development of a regional water supply plan. Those are the main points of this. I wanted you to understand why we were doing these updates. The updates to the bonding policy are really to clarify things. There were a lot of lessons that we learned out of a couple of residential subdivisions, as well as doing Rocky Forge, that we have built into the new bonding policy. There's also some new bonding policy agreement language that is being adopted by most of the localities around here. I've shared it with Roanoke County, Bedford County, and the town of Bedford. And they're all working with similar language, working it into their plans as well. So it's becoming more or less the standard in this area. That's what I wanted to bring up to you. This is mainly about getting us into compliance with changes to state law and embodying lessons learned over the last decade into our bonding policy. Are there any questions I can answer?
Are existing agreements grandfathered, or do they need to be updated?
So existing agreements, yeah, so existing agreements are basically grandfathered. So an approved plat or final site plan continues to be valid for a period of 5 years. We typically, our development agreement is 3 years. And the point of having it be 3 years is so that it comes up for review after 3 years. At the end of 3 years, if the developer has made no progress whatsoever, we can at that point revoke the site plan or subdivision plat. But if not, then if they have continued to make progress, then it goes out to 5 years more or less automatically. And so at that point, you can extend that development agreement. But at that point, you can also go through, you can review whether the infrastructure cost estimates were accurate. It's possible that if somebody comes in with their estimates for how much it's going to cost to build a water and sewer system in 2025 and 2028, I mean, it could be 15% more. And we may wish to revisit at that point whether the amount of the surety bond is actually sufficient to cover us. Or we might get 3 years down the road and they're halfway done and we want to release the bond because the work is done and it's good. We want to release it down to, let's say 55 or 60% in order to, because they don't need to keep that all on the books, which incidentally is a requirement. If they've completed work to our satisfaction and it's been accepted, then we have to release their bond. So really that 3-year mark just gives us an ability to do a review. If they're not doing anything, revoke the plat. If they've got continuing along the way, just do an update and see how we're going toward the 5-year mark.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? So I think our task now is to open a public hearing to consider the text amendments that are listed in the packet. There's a number of them. They seem to all bring us into compliance with the 2025 House Bill 2660. So I am going to open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak to these changes to these text amendments? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion to accept,
So move.
Adopt, I think.
adopt.
And I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. So that takes us through agenda item 10. And I think you covered number 12 there as well
I did.
with the bonding policy. Thank you for that update. No action required there. Is that correct?
No, that policy needs to be approved. It's been prepared, but it needs to be approved as a policy by the board.
Okay, so let me move down to that.
No public hearing necessary.
No public hearing. Okay, so regarding agenda item 12, the bonding policy for public improvement, the updates were provided by Mr. Lockaby. Any questions for him? Do I have a motion? We have a motion for approval
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries as well. And now we will move on to agenda item 11, the proposed amendments to the planning and zoning fee schedule. Ms. Pendleton and Ms. Lawrence are going to present this information.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board. So we have actually been working for quite some time. I believe you've probably heard me mention this at various meetings that we have been addressing and trying to really update our fee schedule. This also would pertain to some components of the building fee updates as well. So we were working on planning and zoning first, realized we needed to do a and so we will try to bring you as much as we can next month. If you do authorize us to move forward with the fee schedule updates, the state code really tells us that there are certain fees that we have to charge. There are other fees we could charge, and basically we have to recoup the cost of doing business, and that's pretty much all we can do. Really not much extra. However, our fee schedules or fees are some of them updated in the 90s, most of them updated in the 90s, early 2000s, so just a few since I've been here, not very many. And so when we look at what does it mean and what is the rationale behind the fee schedule updates, we really want to shift the burden from the taxpayer to the end user, like we do with a lot of other things that we capture fees for, to recover those direct costs. And really recognizing that we want to support the small business community, our small businesses, our small contractors, people that are doing work in the community and doing some of those smaller jobs, as well as continuing to keep our fees low for anything that's agricultural related. However, given the age of our fees, having a fee structure that's a little bit more in line with other localities and in line with recovering our actual cost will help us to be more efficient and allow us to expand our services. And so we've been working through this for a long time, and it's kind of stalled because of our little bit of staffing challenges. So we were super fortunate. Ms. Lawrence came on and she was able to help us kind of really just, I think, get this over the finish line. So hats off to her for the work that she has done. Very much have appreciated having her around. And she is here to just kind of correct me if I say anything super wonky or out of the ordinary. We don't have those actual fees ready to present. We're just asking for authorization to bring them for public hearing next month. Another thing too is, we have small rezonings, again, somebody who wants to do something smaller, and then we have a much larger development, right? So the whole goal, and Ms. Lawrence has done a great job of being able to capture like a larger cost to help be more reflective of the amount of time and energy that goes into those bigger project rezonings or site plans and things that come to us multiple times and really should be in a better shape when they come to us the first time. So how do we capture the cost and help folks, get things to us so that we aren't spending as much time on those? And so she's really worked hard to get that to a good place. Anything I missed? Okay, well, thank you. And so with that, we're just asking for authorization to bring that to public hearing next month.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. It's great to have you on board. I'm glad you were able to bring this project that's been simmering, bring that to fruition. Any questions for the two of them?
No questions. I ask we approve, authorize staff to advertise a public hearing.
A second.
Have a motion and a second to authorize a public hearing next month. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
next month. Now, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Item 13, consideration of resolution requesting that Castle Drive be taken into the secondary system of highways.
Thank you for reminding me not to go back up the steps.
I'm
So
gonna let
this,
you walk up there.
the request to bring this portion of the street is in your packet of information. VDOT has let us know they're ready for us to request you all to do your part so that they can do their part. And that's typically all I usually say for these street acceptances, but I am happy to answer any questions that you would have. We are entertaining a resolution to support that. Thank you.
Any questions?
No questions. I would ask that we adopt the attached resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank
Now you
you.
may go back to your seats and we will ask Mr. LaRue to come up and talk about item 14, the lease transfer of the old jail.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and board members. It's good to be here with you. What I bring before you is the consideration of the authority to transfer the old jail lease. As you are aware, is that the jail is leased out today to Cardin Enterprises, also known as Don and Caroline Naismith. I think they're actually in the house, and that lease is for a 40-year period. Now, the Naismiths, they've been working on that structure for some time. They have invested a lot of money. They've invested a lot of time, energy, sweat, equity into that facility, and it's really a nice facility at present, and they're still working on some of that. They would continue to work on that and get that completed and across the line, and certainly do appreciate their efforts. They have also been working with Mr. and Ms. Hogan Lambert, who would like to take over the lease. Luke Campbell in Economic Development, myself, met with both parties at the same time and went over the existing lease line by line on July the 14th. And the Lamberts are seeking permission from the Board of Supervisors to allow the lease to be transferred. It would be the intention that the Lamberts to use the old jail for the business of some sort that may include a coffee shop or something like that, maybe an art gallery, or maybe a combination of that in the future. So Mr. and Ms. Lambert, they are here with us this afternoon also, and they would be seeking 120 days to actually set up an LLC that would be for the purpose of the jail lease. And also they would need to get the town of Fincastle approval that is in the current lease with Cardon. That's part of the conditions. So they would need to get the town approval and also finish their business plan and work with the Naismiths to transfer the utilities and to conduct the other due diligence as necessary. The request today is to provide the authority for the transfer of the lease during a 120-day window starting today. If for some reason all activities are not completed within the 120 days, any and all authority to transfer would automatically be revoked. So that's where we are associated with this. What we would ask is that you approve the request and provide the authority to transfer the old jail lease from the current leaseholders to a future LLC that will be created and within 120 days, subject to the town of Fincastle's approval and approval from all necessary governmental agencies for the planned use, and authorize the county administrator to sign the new lease when necessary.
So would
Have any
that,
questions?
thank you for the report. That lease the conditions would convey
It,
all the.
everything would convey,
So would it be 39 years?
yes,
Okay.
there are 38 years and a few months,
few months,
whatever.
right.
Yes, yes. The first lease actually was signed on January the 16th of 2023.
Gotcha.
So it would continue on for 40 years from that point.
Madam Chair, if there is no question, I would like to approve the request, provide the authority to transfer.
We have a motion for approval
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? I'm just going to reiterate, anything that they do in there would be subject to approval by the town, and anything else that
Yes.
would be needed for that purpose.
Yes,
So everything would remain intact.
yes.
So if,
That's the way that we've had the discussions, and that's the way the lease would end up running. So
thank you. With no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
okay,
That
thank you very
carries.
much.
Congratulations. So Mr. Lockaby and Mr. Mormon are here for item 15, the opioid settlement discussion.
I think that Mr. Mormon is extremely excited about speaking to you about this matter.
I can tell.
I think he gave you a thumbs up.
I think that so we're being asked to deal with, or we're being asked to approve a settlement with Mallinckrodt Pharmacies. Our outside litigation counsel at Kaufman and Knowles and Sanford Heiser Sharp have determined with their experts that they were a very small player in the pharmaceuticals market in Virginia, and consequently, they are recommending that their, I think about 36 clients in Virginia accept a settlement with Mallinckrodt. Right at the moment, we stand to get, I believe, about $2,500. So this is a very small piece of a very large and still ongoing piece of litigation, but we're settling out. I guess their strategy is to settle out with the small ones and then really only go to war with the big ones.
And it seems that there are a number of people engaging, or we're entering into this settlement, a number of municipalities.
Yes, like I said, about 36 in Virginia, I think.
Any questions for Mr. Lockaby?
There won't be any other fees coming out.
Nothing more than what you see. So this is a giant class action lawsuit. So these sort of side settlements, there's a percentage that they take.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, when the whole thing finally happens, actually the court will go through all of their billing records and decide how much they deserve. It's
okay. Thank you.
It's an ugly process, but the short answer is that we aren't going to owe any more money to the attorneys, if that's what you're asking.
Okay.
Any further questions? Do I have a motion to approve this settlement?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Ms. Phillips, if you could come down for items 16 and 17, the personnel policy update, as well as the purchasing policy update.
Good afternoon, everyone. Personnel policy manual update is our first one up here. So this is the policies that govern our Botetourt County employees. So we did quite a round of updates this time, tried to get them to you all in a batch. Hopefully you've had a chance to review the track changes and enjoyed it as a sleep aid, but we'll try to go through as many of those highlights as possible right now. There are only 2 new policies in this round of updates. So the first new policy it concerns artificial intelligence. As you know, AI is used in workplaces to gain efficiency and just help us do our work faster and better. And certainly Botetourt County is no exception, but we want to make sure that we're doing it securely and responsibly. Since we have data that some of which needs to be protected, that policy goes through and makes sure that our employees understand how to use AI in a way that keeps our data secure and does it well. So you can see the policy that was written by our Technology Services Department. So thanks to them for their input there, especially Dustin. So that policy is new. The second policy that is new is the training and development policy. And this just addresses some compliance training that we require all employees to take, as well as helps them understand how important continued learning is. If we want to offer, keep up with all of the changes going on and serve our citizens well, we need to keep learning. So that just tells them how to navigate those waters, continue learning, including optional learning, but also the required training we give to our employees to make sure we're compliant and our insurance is happy. So those are the only 2 new ones. We updated the manual to reflect some administrative changes that our county administrator had made with the authority given to him by you. This just updates to reflect those changes that were already in place. So one example is that employees can wear jeans in the workplace any day of the work week, as long as it's appropriate for the nature of the work they're performing. And that puts us in alignment with common workplace practices, including locally. We updated our inclement weather policy to reflect current practices. For example, now when we close for inclement weather, just because the building is closed doesn't mean we have to stop work. We can work remotely. So to everyone's joy, we're able to do that. And we reflected that in our inclement weather policy, as well as just updated processes that were involved. We do not allow compensatory time and just removed all those references in the policy to reflect that fact. We have a tuition assistance program for employees who are taking courses that are highly relevant to their work. They can apply to be reimbursed for some of the costs of those courses. But if they are on a performance improvement plan within the past 12 months, they would be not eligible for that reimbursement. So that just clarifies that piece. The majority of the changes that you see in the personnel manual were more superficial and clarifications as opposed to actual changes. So we'll just run through a few of those clarifications where we added details or we added clarity to make sure that employees really understand the policy. Expanded sections include the standards of conduct. It went from a short paragraph to a list of expected behaviors that just help employees understand what the expectations are right off the bat, which is especially helpful for our new hires. The personal appearance standards, or what most people just call the dress code. We get a lot of questions about that. So we took some of those questions and just put them in the policy so that employees have answers at their fingertips and they don't have to call HR to find out if something's acceptable. The remote work policy had been pretty short. Now, of course, remote work is kind of expanding. So we do have a few employees who work 100% remotely, a few are out of state. So we made our policy a little bit more robust to clarify the expectations we have of all employees who work remotely. Essentially, everything still applies that applies in the workplace. It needs to be secure. It needs to be a space where they can focus on their work and not be distracted. County administration approval is required for a number of things, and that was certainly a fact in current practice, but we wanted to clarify that in the policy so there's no doubt as to who needs to approve what. So that includes any departmental personnel policies that might be outside this manual. If they have something specific, our county administration needs to take a peek at that first. Any changes to positions that go from on-site to some, including some or all remote work. If they require their employees to wear certain attire at work, like a uniform, then that just needs to pass muster. Any employees who have take-home vehicles, so for example, our maintenance director is on call 24/7 and could be anywhere in the county. So it makes sense for them to take a vehicle home. But for any employees taking vehicles home, that needs to be approved by county administration. And then also if there are any exceptions to the way HR handles and approves different aspects of the recruitment process. So right now, HR needs to approve all those interview panels if there are preset questions. HR handles all the communication with job candidates. If there are any exceptions to that rule, then that would fall to county administration. And then as well, HR handles all the job offers and negotiates salaries, but only county administration or HR may do that. And then we mentioned the tuition reimbursement program earlier. If employees want to study on work time for a course that is very directly associated with their work and relevant to their work, that still has to get an approval from county administration, since we want to make sure employees are focused primarily on serving our citizens and doing their county jobs. All right, just some other clarifications for things that were already in place. The county does not provide stipends or devices for mobile phones because everybody has one. And if we had to provide mobile phones for everyone, you'd be looking at a little bit different numbers in your budget. So we just do not do that at the current time. If there are any smoking areas, we want to reaffirm that those need to be distanced from areas where the public might be walking. So in the interest of public health, making sure the public isn't exposed to those areas. Professional scheduling, this applies to our exempt staff. So exempt staff under the Fair Labor Standards Act have basically flexible schedules in order to meet the needs of their departments. Which is fine. So they might have to work well overtime on a special project to get it done and through the finish line. The following week, they might just take a little bit of time off so they can see their families again. We want to accommodate that, but we also want to be very clear that it does not work like banking vacation time or like compensatory time. So it's not like somebody can just work a lot this week and then say, I'm going to take off in a couple months. That's just not how exempt positions work. We get the privilege of working overtime to get the job done. Again, just thinking about work time, we added some examples of what that work time should and should not look like. So we want to make sure that we have a high return on investment to our taxpayers for the time we are spending on the job. And then that's very clear. We had health and dental insurance on our policy, and we had added vision along the way and just hadn't encoded that in the policy, so we added that in. In terms of how employees show up to work, we wanted it to be very clear that there is zero tolerance for any impaired performance due to any substance of any kind, whether legal or not. So coffee, but just kidding. Any kind of substance, if there's impaired performance, people need to be ready to work and able to work safely. We added some details in terms of how to keep track of time and labor management to make sure that we're keeping documentation aligned with everything that we need for the Department of Labor and all the legal aspects. We also expanded some details for performance reviews so that everybody would know what the process was. We had a reminder for everyone who chooses to use their personal cell phone number for work. They don't have to. We have an app they can install on their phone. They can use county devices for that. But if they choose to use their personal number for work or their personal vehicle for work-related purposes, and they get in a wreck, that is on them, not on the county. So that's just a liability reminder. We had some purchasing details about the county purchasing card or P card. We moved those to the purchasing manual, which we'll go over next, because it just seemed like it should be living there instead of in the personnel policy manual. According to state law, certain apps like TikTok, any ByteDance software are prohibited on county networks and devices. We're just making that very clear here. In terms of signatures, electronic signatures are handled the same way as wet signatures. Only county administration or the deputy administrator can sign contracts on behalf of the county. And it doesn't matter whether it's electronic or on a piece of paper. It still counts the same. And thanks to Chief Ferguson for pointing out this other piece of the Virginia Code that allows extra leave for career firefighters. So we made sure that was plugged in as well. Now, the rest of the changes in the personnel policy, we just tried to update the language. So there's policies are hard enough to read as it is, and we wanted to make it as clear as we could to employees so they have fewer questions and can read it for themselves, and tried to make it a little bit shorter because, again, sleep aid, it's a lot to read. So I think we chopped off a number of pages and just made it a little more concise. And then you will see in your packet that we redesigned the manual. So we just reorganized some stuff. We didn't change the substance, but we put it in a different order so that the sections most relevant to the most employees come first. And then the style reflects Botetourt County branding. So it's just prettier, I guess you could say. So the request today is to approve these proposed amendments to the county's personnel policy manual. I would recommend an effective date of August 1st to give our employees a little time to absorb the content before it goes into effect. But that is the action that we're asking of you. And then, of course, we would notify all the employees of the changes. And I'll be happy to take any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. That's quite an undertaking. That's quite an employee manual. Any questions?
A lot of work.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of work. Hearing no questions, do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just like to say that I found the new version more understandable. And I don't know how you did it to cut it practically at 50%. Congratulations.
Thank you. We're glad it was easier to read. We appreciate that too.
Great. Good work. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. That motion carries, and we will have a new employee handbook.
Fantastic.
And we will move right into the update for the purchasing policy.
So much shorter. So this is just a few little tweaks, nothing huge here. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at the track changes. Most of the changes were updates to the small purchases section. So as I mentioned earlier, we took a piece that was stuck in the personnel manual and just moved it back to the purchasing manual where we thought it should live. So that was all the P card and small purchase information. We updated the process for purchase orders to reflect what we actually do now with new software. We changed a little piece that says it may not be used for construction purposes. So if it's a small purchase, construction is not considered a small purchase. And then reiterated that contracts need to be signed by basically Gary or David. No one else can sign contracts on behalf of the county. The only new section is on information technology purchases. So information technology goods and services. And I think we have Mr. Lockaby to thank, at least in part, for this change. I think he was instrumental in getting this passed through the General Assembly. In compliance with Virginia Code that was passed recently, basically this makes sure that if we purchase goods or services that are related to information technology, and Mr. Lockaby can correct me if I'm going the wrong direction here, but the terms and provisions of any contracts need to be interpreted under Virginia law. And if there's any dispute or litigation or trouble around that fact, then it is subject to the Virginia court system. We don't have to go to, say, Canada to solve this problem. Did I get it right?
That's right. So this was actually driven largely by VITA, the state IT administration. I was just on the very fringes. Ms. Phillips is too kind. But what was driving this was there are lots of software licenses that localities wind up having to sign that have absolutely ridiculous provisions. I once had one where it was to be interpreted under Ontario law with venue for binding arbitration in Ottawa. And I asked if this was a major piece of software that the sheriff's office needed and used. I said, can we please not be silly here? And they're like, you want it, you'll sign it. And so there were just way too many stories like that, that led the General Assembly to say, well, if you're doing business with the governments of Virginia, you can write what you want in your contract, but you're going to have it interpreted under Virginia law and litigate it in Virginia if it comes down to it.
Thank you, Mr. Lockaby. That will make our lives so much easier in the hopefully unlikely event that there's a problem. So the action requested here is to approve the proposed amendments to the county's purchasing policy and procedures manual. Again, I recommend an effective date of August 1st to give our employees time to read it over, which I suppose might take less than 2 minutes, but still. And then, of course, we can let the employees know that these changes have been made. So any questions from you all?
Any questions?
No questions. I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve these changes as presented. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion also carries. Thank you.
Thank you
for
so
the-
much.
Hard work.
Thank you for the update and getting all that pulled together. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So our next item is number 18. If Mr. Evans would come on down, we are going to discuss the contract award for the Reed Mountain Fire Department 911 Center construction.
Madam Chair, board members, thanks for having me. And once again, thanks for your kind words earlier. I appreciate it. So I'm here to ask for a resolution awarding a construction contract for the Reed Mountain Fire Department Extension and 911 Complex. As most of us have known for some time, Botetourt County has outgrown the current 911 dispatch center. The current center's IT spaces physically cannot hold the new IT equipment that's going to be required for the future. The current dispatch only has 4 positions. The new 911 center will have 6 positions with availability of 8, so they can extend basically double the size of the call stations. The current 911 center has only 1 available electrical backup system. The new 911 center will have 3 emergency systems, 2 emergency generators, and a tap box or a pull-up station where you can put a 3rd generator. The new 911 center will be approximately 5,500 square feet. The current 911 center in Fincastle will be used as the backup 911 center after the completion of the current 911 center, of the Reed Mountain 911 Center. The construction contract will also provide approximately an additional 7,200 square feet for the housing, living, sleeping quarters for fire and EMS. The current living quarters is certainly substandard with an open area with bunk beds. This makes a co-ed workplace extremely challenging for recruiting and retention. The expansion will consist of individual bunk rooms, a kitchen, a day room, decon areas, and turnout areas. The construction contract will also include a 2,500 square foot radio shop for Botetourt County. The shop will initially be used for the site testing of the P25 emergency communication systems. The radio shop will then be utilized for the maintenance of the radio system and the vehicle installation of emergency equipment for the sheriff's office and select fire and EMS equipment. Last but not least, this contract will include a renovation of approximately 2,900 square feet of the existing fire station. This will add new finishes on existing construction, floors, doors, and windows. Housing offices, training spaces, gym areas, and support spaces. Currently, if the firefighters need to work out, they move a truck out and they work out in the bays. And also have no real training spaces. In conclusion, I am asking the Board of Supervisors pass a resolution to award MB contractors the construction contract for the Reed Mountain Fire Department Extension and 911 Complex for a sum of $11,676,000 contingent on the approval of the SEP, which is going to be at your 6 o'clock session. And this SEP is because there are no previous land use approvals for the existing fire station. So we're going to ask additional land use for government buildings and functions.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Just, it's a whole lot of, yes, if I may,
Yes, absolutely.
whole lot of dollars per square foot on that.
It's a 911 center. It's a complicated
Yeah.
a project. And yes, sir, it is. But once again, there is approximately over 12,000 square feet of an addition to the building, a 25,000 square foot building, and then renovation of 2,900 square feet. So I do not have the math in front of me of the dollars per square foot, but 911 center obviously has to be a category 4 building. So the construction level is a little higher there than most any other type of building. And the infrastructure for that building has to be significantly greater, especially the electrical capabilities of that building. So has to be greater than the the typical commercial building, especially the backup systems and whatnot. So
The other question I have is, some of the other areas or some of the tenants in that area, will they be accessibility to get to such as the church or other areas?
yes, sir. And I've spoken with Scott McLucas, the pastor there. And so there is an access road that comes off of East Park Drive over to the church. And he asked for that to be maintained open as often, as much as I possibly could. And I've scheduled a meeting with him, the general contractor, the AE firm, and Skanska as well to review this. And I've included money in the bid to keep that road open. I've left that church on the Cloverdale side. And if you got to go left or we got to go do a U-turn, there's no good place to do a U-turn there. I went through all of them and tried them all, and there's no good one. So we are going to do everything we can to keep that road open as often as we possibly can. And once again, there's $250,000 in the bid to maintain, for the general contractor to maintain that road open and to maintain it. It's going to be gravel and won't be paved during construction, but there will be some way there for them to get across. I can't say all the time by any stretch, but most of the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? So I think we need to I need to entertain a motion to approve this resolution, and we will do a voice vote for this because it has each person here listed. So let's do a roll call. But first, do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. If we could do a roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we'll note that Mr. Clinton is absent today. Thank you. So that motion passes.
Thank you, ma'am.
And
I
we'll see you
appreciate it.
tonight at 6 o'clock.
Actually, Nicole's going to do that for
We'll
us.
see Nicole tonight at
Yes,
6
ma'am.
o'clock, and she's going to come down right now. So we'll bring her down now and bring her back at 6. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Evans. Our almost last agenda item is number 19, resolution to consider amendments to Chapter 25, zoning Article 4, supplemental regulations of the Botetourt County Code to provide regulations for telecommunication towers specific for public safety.
Thank you. Glad to be back down here again. I've had the pleasure of working with Mr. Evans and Mr. Hinkle on the projects that they are bringing forth to provide these improvements to public safety comms for the county. And upon doing so, we realized that Mr. Hinkle's towers may need to be a little taller, and there may need to be some supplemental regulations that we would request amendments to the ordinance to potentially consider for you all, specific only to public safety towers. We're going to work through what that looks like and believe we'll have an SCP potentially for a tower for your consideration, as well as some text amendments next month. So we are fast tracking this project, fast tracking all of these things to get them advertised by the end of the week, to get them on the Planning Commission's agenda next month. If you so agree to authorize us to consider the changes, then we will send them to public hearing. That's the request. Thank you.
Thank you. So our request is to authorize a public hearing, hopefully next month, to consider these amendments. Any questions for Ms. Pendleton?
No questions, Madam Chair. I request to authorize a public hearing.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion?
A lot of jurisdictions doing this,
I'm sorry.
or a lot of jurisdictions doing this, streamlining.
I'm not sure that they are. I just know that Mr. Hinkle's towers need to be taller than our minimum standard. And so we were looking at bumping that height up from 199 to 225, specific to public safety at this point in time.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. So that is 2 public hearings that we have authorized for next month. Thank you. So that brings us to item 20, our citizen comment period. I have 3 folks signed up to speak. Does anyone else want to speak that if you have not signed up? Yes, ma'am. I'll bring you down first. Come on. Yes, ma'am.
Maybe. Hello again. My name is Patsy Dickerson and I live in Fincastle. I'm here representing the VA 250 committee in the county. We have obtained the VA 250 Mobile Museum from Richmond. It will be in Fincastle on the 27th of September, which is our historic Fincastle Festival Day. And we also will be entertaining all the 5th graders in the county that week with the mobile museum also. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. And I hope we'll be able to share. We have plenty of time to spread that word. Thank you. Anyone else that's not signed up? Mr. Carl Morris?
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Carl Morris, and I am from the Valley District. I am here today to plead with you to protect our children in Botetourt County from the destructive material located in our libraries. I don't believe the members of the board have actually seen or read the books that are in question. Today, I am planning on introducing some of those books. The first picture you see is out of the book called Together, a first conversation about love. This is for children ages 2 through 5. You see the picture? I know people back there can't see it, but that's it. At the top left, you will see a man walking a dog and waving. He says, "I am a man who loves other men. I am gay." Down below that, we have a picture of 2 women sitting on a park bench with a child playing. Both women are seen saying, "We be lesbians." At the right, we have, and I want to say about the child there, any farm boy would know that those 2 women didn't produce that child. You can figure that out. At the right, we have a picture of 4 people who appear to be having a picnic. One man says, "I can love people of any gender. I'm queer." Another guy says, "I'm a man who loves women. I'm straight." Down at the bottom of the picture, it asks, "What are some of the words that you know?" How about perverse? Next picture is taken out of the Rainbow Parade. And this is for ages 2 through 5. You see on the left-hand side, two guys dressed in S&M gear. You also see naked people walking down the parade route. What are we trying to portray to our children with these books? The last picture is from a book titled Gender Queer. It is for children 12 and over. I'm not even going to talk about that book. What are we trying to push with this homosexual lifestyle? Is that what we're trying to push? I'm going to read out of a book called All Boys Aren't Blue for ages 13 and older. And I don't know how far I'm going to read in this. For the first few minutes, and I hope you give me a little leadway because you gave the first guy 5 minutes today. For the first few minutes, we dry humped and grinded. I was behind him with my stomach on his back as we kissed. After a few minutes of fun and games, he got up and went to his nightstand where he pulled out a condom and some lube. He then laid down on his stomach, and I knew what I had to do, even if I had never done it before. I had one point of reference, though, and that was 7+ years of watching porn. And I'm not going to go through it, but anyway, there's two guys having sex there. And you've seen the other picture. I'm not going to hold it up in here. Anyway, there are 350 LGBT books in our libraries, over 350. Why? What are we trying to promote? Let me read you something. This author, she's a homosexual, Patricia Nell Warren. She wrote, "Whoever captures the kids owns the future." I think she's got that right. Here are some statistics. LGBT people commit suicide 2 to 2.5 times heterosexual. In 2014, 4.1% of the population identified as LGBT. Now it is estimated at 7.6%. I guess the books are working, aren't they? Huh? Something to be proud of. So I guess the books are helping in the direction we want to go. Here's another interesting statistic, and I couldn't believe this. Greater than 42% of women incarcerated identify as lesbians. Is this where we want to spend taxpayers' money on? Do we want to have this as our legacy? Members of the board, you're deciding this in this county. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Eric Launch.
Eric Klotz, 2817 Mount Moriah Road, Eagle Rock. It is not a good afternoon for you from Mill Creek upstream from Gala on Dagger Springs Road or those who live there. Due to willful negligence of county officials, that formerly pristine creek has suffered multiple stormwater runoff events from Rocky Forge construction, so damaging as to make the creek look like chocolate milk at times. Each one of these sedimentation events is a DEQ violation, and no known penalty has yet occurred. The county is not enforcing its stormwater regulations. Every stormwater pollution prevention plan report, at least since early April this year, contain recurring, non-compliant issues. County stormwater authorities ignored these, directly contributing to the ongoing devastation of Mill Creek. Rather than immediately correct the non-compliant issues, the county stormwater managers made it as difficult as possible to continue accessing the stormwater reports once they realized the citizens found these contained recurring, non-compliant stormwater protection measures. This is willful negligence, and these people are hiding incriminating evidence. Otherwise, why change the process? The stormwater regulation is not conditional. It doesn't say does not apply during historic rains or to potentially large tax generators. A violation is a violation, and not issuing a penalty is negligent. By the way, why are no Board of Supervisor meeting minutes posted on the county website in all of 2025, coincidentally aligning with the time period since the Rocky Forge Wind Project was approved? And might the departure of the county's Director of Communications and lead FOIA responder be due to failure to abide corrupt behavior? These same stormwater managers would eagerly issue me a violation if my neighbors reported that sediment had washed from my property to theirs. Yet Rocky Forge Wind construction, with an estimated 27 acres of soil being disturbed, gets a pass. After multiple documented violations, willful negligence. Apex continues to skirt county regulations with no apparent consequences. If bad behavior continues, you get more of it. County citizens demand equal treatment and accountability for violating regulations. To restore credibility, the county must, 1, issue a construction stop work order until every stormwater measure is fully compliant. Penalize the company. 2, discipline the stormwater management staff for willful negligence. 3, publicly apologize for the environmental destruction caused by your stormwater managers. 4, release the project's stormwater bond to help pay for damages. You're all placed on notice.
Thank you. Bob Patterson.
Good afternoon, and it is a good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm not here to complain about anything today. I'm here to give recognition to great jobs that have been done. Over 30 years ago, I had the opportunity to vote on a bond referendum to buy some land. We're here today. We're on that land that got bought. Last month, I'm Bob Patterson. I live in the Buchanan district. I've been a lifelong resident of Botetourt County. And I had the pleasure of voting back in '94 in favor of that bond referendum, which resulted in this building and this lovely industrial park we have here. And I'm here to give thanks today to everybody who had the vision years ago to do this, to make some place available for economic benefit to Botetourt County. And that has just been announced at last month's meeting, which I was unable to attend. The man who summed it up best is Dwayne Yancey, who wrote an opinion, maybe all of you saw it, maybe none of you did, in the Cardinal News, 8 things to know about Google's data center in Botetourt County. Very well written. Been a lot spoken here today about history. This is about history. This is how it came about. And if anybody is upset and complaining about it, the answer's there, upsets and complaints. You can't complain about not having a vote when you didn't live here when the vote occurred. You might not have even been born when the vote occurred. But at any rate, I'm here today to ask that this be put in the record, because I fear that in the future, there may be those who had nothing to do with this, who will want to take credit for it. You guys here today, and all of those who sat in your positions in the past 34 years, have done one heck of a lot of work to get Botetourt Center at Greenfield to where it is today. And there may not be many, but I'm here today to say thanks to all of you. And I would like to make this a part of your meeting record if that's permissible. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that concludes agenda item 20. We now are at our final daytime agenda item, number 21, board member comments. I would give my colleagues any opportunity they would like to share comments.
Turn you loose.
Madam Chair, if I may, there's a situation happened in actually the Cottage Hills steeplechase in that bond referendum. And have we found anything out? And I'm going to ask our county attorney.
Mrs. Pendleton, are you still here? Nope. Okay. The cottages of steeplechase matter, and I only know but so much. There is the big problem there is that because nothing had happened for a long time, the bank, and ultimately this goes back, my recollection of it is correct. This goes back to being a part of the collapse of the Overbay Empire. When the Bank of Fincastle retracted its letter of credit, which we supposedly had to do this, it was not pulled, and I'll tell you more about that in the near future, but that letter of credit is no longer there. So we are exploring strategies for how we're going to try our best to make someone pay for it, but at the end of the day, we're going to have to figure out how to make the plan be complied with.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. The other question I have, I know we've talked about, one of the things we're going to soon see is the students going from LB up to Delville Town Center or down to Kroger. And I know we have talked about a sidewalk, hopefully in the future, seeing some sidewalk that these kids can safely walk on from Kroger to Daleville, because we see a lot of kids going on that. And I just don't want them to hit the road. I just would like to have them keep on a safe sidewalk if we could. If there's an opportunity, I know we were going to apply for a grant or something like that at some point in time. Yeah. It was not funded. Okay. All right. So hopefully we can find some other way. Yeah. To
look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's it.
Other comments? So I will start us off a little bit with some comments. I will say that I have received concerns from 2 citizens regarding the Rocky Forge project. Supervisor Nicely and I went there on Friday. We gave the site less than 24 hours notice that we were coming. So it was a pretty authentic visit. I'm not going to get into, I'm not well versed enough in all the technicalities, but what I will say I observed is several crews that are very concerned with the maintenance of the site. In my opinion, what I observed, they have gone beyond what is necessary by code and by regulations to ensure proper stormwater management control. The site is circulated by a silt fence that has been reinforced. There is a team on site all the time checking for erosion, inappropriate erosion, and problems with that silt fence. The reporting structure is sound and the public can access those reports. There are no willful negligence is a really strong term, and I would argue very strongly that willful must be taken out of there. Everyone wants that site to be clean, to be appropriate. We're not here to debate the pros and cons of wind energy, the merits of that project. It was approved long before three of us were on this board. That project was approved. What our role is now, as I see it, is to ensure compliance. And in my opinion, what I observed, the site is in compliance. And I think I think that the companies that are involved are making every effort to ensure that they remain compliant with all current regulations. I would ask Supervisor Nicely to give his impression of that visit.
Yeah, it's rare to go on a site of that scale, that slope. They have doubled up, tripled up a lot of their erosion sediment control measures, brush barriers, along with wood chips in front of it, which they've done a beautiful job of it. I mean, it's really impressive. Have their own environmentalist on there who has actually shut them down before. They also have two ladies, ENS wise, there every 4 days or after every rain event. Yes, there are blowouts. I used to inspect it all the time. The regulations are designed to hold back a 2-year storm. That's basically it. And as you've seen around this state, look at the blowouts we've had, Galax recently. I think the biggest one that I think they've had and has been mentioned in that area, we've been shown that it is now stabilized, was about a month ago, I guess. Well, I know it's documented, but 2 inches in less than 45 minutes. And on that slope, it's hard to hold it back. I don't know what you could do, but they've done a heck of a job. They're definitely meeting it. They're meeting regulations. Violations have been corrected. They are corrected the day of. They've got a 6-man crew that does nothing but do that. I can't discuss that with you unless you want to come down front. I'm not going to yell across these folks. But they are doing their job. I spent 32 years doing that kind of work. And they've done all they can do, and they're doing more all the time. There's a violation downstream that we need to address. Somebody has cut a road in and trying to cross the creek. That might be some of the mud that you saw, because it is bad. And I've just made our folks aware of it, and I'm sure they'll be down on it. Thank you.
Sure. Any other supervisor comments? I will point out a couple of things coming up. I want to make sure everybody heard the VDOT announcement. If you're interested in giving input on the 81 projects and potential projects, please go to their website. And the Botetourt County Agricultural Fair is August 1st and 2nd at the Town Park in Buchanan. I would love to see lots of people there enjoying all things agricultural. So with that, I would entertain a motion to recess until 6 p.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We will reconvene at 6 p.m.
Yeah, I'll go with post recess.